I would want to know, I don't know how, Philo, how did you get here? People are resorting to flying.
If you talk about people resorting to flying because the fuel prices are high, it would be a bit confusing. But lucky for me, I was picked and I was dropped. But you know, I was not supposed to say anything because I was worried I could be asked to contribute to the, refueling of the car because we don't know where the stakes are at right now. So you have to be very careful, especially when you're being given a lift. You have to make limited statements.
Say that again. Say that again. Like in Uganda, they will say kuwaonya. But anyway, how are you? How was your morning?
I'm all right. My morning is great. Yes, I love the weather. I love the fact that... Yes, I do.
Very cold, man.
Aren't you okay? I don't know. I think the humankind is really insatiable. When it's really hot, we are complaining. When it's cold, we are complaining. What do you want?
Moderate is what you clearly. I tell you that the weather is a bit changing, and that's where I want to consult Molin, or probably I'll start with Robert. But I would want to know Molin's definition of this weather thing. It's cold. It's hot the next day. Some parts, like you drive from, let's say, from Kampala to Wandegeya and it's raining. From Wandegeya to Mulago, it's hot. From Mulago to Kamocha, it's... I mean, what's happening, Molin?
Yes, first of all, I want to say good morning. And, we're making it red this morning, me and Philo. But the rest of you guys, I don't know what you were thinking, but we're going red. It's the weather. But in my mind, I'm like, Ugandans, just stop complaining. We were just from a wave of, dry weather and the sun and, it was hot. But now we have a little bit of cold. All you have to do is just cope up with it. That's the time you now bring out your sweater dress and deal with the coldness. Wow. Otherwise, if you ask me, Felix, I prefer this kind of weather. And also, we have to remember that this is still a dry season. So even when the occasional rains come in, they're not going to be everywhere. They're not going to be consistent. So don't be surprised if you see much of today, we're not going to have as much rains as we had yesterday. So it's just going to have to be like that until Feb. So get used to it. And you could also see your neighbors actually enjoying the sun, while for you there is a little bit of rain. So that's what happens when most of these rains come in during January. They're just, scattered.
So speaking about scattered rains, Uncle Bob, who's a farmer, will be also able to bring in his concept. I don't know, should we plant or wait, sir? Good morning, Uncle Bob.
A lovely morning to you, Felix, and the ladies in red. A sign that Valentine is just around the corner. That is my interpretation of color red on this set.
It's a sign of what, Robert?
That Valentine is just around the corner. 14th of Feb. Yeah.
I didn't think about it that way.
Yeah.
So it is Chiromo for Valentine.
For us, the born agains, the Christians, we used to have prophets.
You should have said that when Ruben is here.
That come ahead. So today, this is the Valentine prophetess. They are coming, predicting, hey, prepare the way for Valentine's Day. Yes, prepare. But going back on Felix, what you asked, as farmers, this time we are learning that we can no longer depend on rainfall-fed agriculture in Uganda. So we use all forms of irrigation, including the famous one that His Excellency taught us, that is the bottle irrigation. So it is time, if you're a farmer, because seasons are changing, weather is changing, and of course, climate change that Molin usually talks about. So if you have those small water bottles, put them just next to the ground of the plant so that they keep dripping. Whether rain or not, you must be planting in and out of season. That is when you can get good money. But when you wait for rain, children may not go to school.
Clearly, I think you've heard from all the experts in terms of rain, in terms of weather, and in terms of Valentine. but absolutely, but also I probably will be also getting an insight from Afande Philo, the traffic lady, to tell us more about, what do we do? Clearly, if you've noticed, there's almost no jam because people probably are not driving. I don't know. Is it people are still like, and I'm anticipating the same even when the economy entirely opens, that people are still scared of moving. I don't know what you say. I
think very many Ugandans right now are still a bit skeptical, and considering that the fuel prices are high, I've had a couple of people complaining, I don't want to find myself in traffic because I don't know how much fuel I'm going to burn Okay, so it's very unpredictable. You don't know how much fuel you'll be able to put in your car. You don't know how much you're going to spend in the course of the day. So people are a little bit skeptical. Do I go with my car? Must I go to town? Really, people are questioning whether they should be in town. So
people are only where they really have
to be aware. You have to drive if you must. I think that is the notion that everyone is actually carrying around until, you know, the prices have been stabilized, and then people can really get a little bit liberal on the road.
It's sad. It's sad. I don't know, Molin, have you sort of had an encounter with this fuel crisis? Have you walked, at least so far?
This time, if you weren't driving and you wanted, you know, a ride from someone, they will give you all the excuses. You see, my car has an issue, or you know, have to be somewhere.
What's the difference?
They are But you also look at between the fuel prices and school fees and requirements, and it being January.
I know.
I am telling you, people are going to leave these cars home. We have not even finished the first quarter of January.
I know it.
And people are just going to leave these cars home. So I think it's now getting rampant and rampant. And we also don't have news that the truck drivers will be here anytime. So I think it's safe to just leave the car if you can't afford the fuel. And
the thing is that we really have like multiple pandemics right now. If you ask me, we can only deal with one pandemic at a time. So if all these things merge, I think it's just too much for people to handle. They are really overwhelmed.
Still speaking about Corona, I don't know now the fuel, the school fees, their requirements.
We should resort to working from home.
If you want now to see the range of people, you dare bring a marriage, what? They're called what? Those
meetings.
No, it's called what?
The wedding
contribution
meetings?
what?
Oh, the wedding meetings.
Ooh, I think you'll get a backlash of your.
You know, now almost every car has that jerry can, small jerry can, so that in case things go.
Actually, it's a savior, as they have called it.
It a savior. Every car, even the Porsche, those cars, we know that to buy them, you must be very confident. Yesterday, I met a lady with a Hammer, and I won't mention it had a customized number plate, and I was shocked. I thought those very expensive cars, they don't feel the pinch. The owners don't. But she got out of the car, got on a border.
I remember I had one time, long time ago, like about 4 years ago, I had a very bad experience with that Kadumana thing. Yeah, I shared a car, gave a car to someone, and then when they returned the car, I didn't even bother to find out. And the car just stopped in the middle of Namirembe Road. You know, as you go to Pride Theatre, in the middle, where there used to be lots of taxis. And it was a very nice car. Now getting out in a suit, at first, Andre, you know. So when you talk about Kadomola, it's a very bad experience. But of course, anyway, we pray and believe that this is going to be sorted. That story will be having more depth discussion later on. Of course, in our news, we'll be discussing what's happening, what have they said, the government, what's been the issue, and of course, definitely how do we find solutions to this situation. But speaking about what we'll be expecting, of course, also we'll be having an insight into whether nature and definitely environment with Molin. Molin, what should we look up for?
Well, we are still following up on the tsunami across Tonga, and so far the volcanic ash that is over that area is already forming clouds and of course distracting the weather also over there. Now those effects also affecting most parts of the Pacific Islands. We'll be following up on that story and take a look into the weather that we're expecting even for today, whether it will be a repeat of yesterday or a little bit different. So that's interesting.
Also, later on at the top of the 8 o'clock hour, we'll be having Uncle Bob Robert will be hosting somebody quite to make a discussion that does change the profound existence of this country. Robert, what do we expect?
Well, we're going to be looking more on the ongoing operations by Kampala Capital City Authority with other sister security agencies to ensure they maintain the streets free and clean. Yesterday we saw a number of operations on the streets of Kampala where kiosks were being lifted and removed. So these and more we expect the State Minister for Kampala. He will be joining me on set at exactly 8 and we'll be discussing this and more.
Definitely, Philo will be taking us to the roads and we are waiting to see all of these things. But for now, let's take a look at what's happening in our stories, that is local stories, and of course we'll be looking at international stories as well.
And we'll kick it off with the prerogative of mercy His Excellency exercised on the 3rd of January that saw over 60 prisoners or convicts yesterday released or get their freedom. In the exercise of his prerogative of mercy, President Yoweri Museveni pardoned 79 convicts who are serving sentence in prisons across the country, including a Venezuelan national. This was reached after consultations with the Advisory Committee on the Prerogative of Mercy. The prison spokesperson, Frank Baine, told the media during a weekly joint security briefing at Naguru in Kampala that the convicts were pardoned on medical and humanitarian grounds. The Venezuelan was serving at Luzila prisons. The president pardon was signed on the 3rd of this very month. In his exercise and powers vested in him under Article 121, Cap 1A of the Constitution of the Republic of Uganda, as amended 1995, and on the advice of the Advisory Committee on Prerogative of Mercy, the President granted pardon to prisoners below on public health humanitarian grounds. It is also clear that the President said he saw 2 Uganda People's Defense soldiers who are serving their sentences in Luzira prisons forgiven. These are Herbertson Sabot and Private James Anyua.
Well, in other news, we look at COVID-19 testing, where government of Uganda through Ministry of Internal Affairs has called off the exercise of testing COVID-19 status of the incoming truck drivers at Malaba border point to reduce congestion. Now, Jacob Siminyu, the ministry spokesperson, says that this is to help the incoming of the essential commodities. Now, their absence has caused a serious fuel crisis in the country. Since the beginning of this year, there has been a standoff at the Kenya-Uganda border of Malaba between truck drivers, tax collectors, and Ministry of Health officials over mandatory COVID-19 testing of all incoming truck drivers. The delay has caused a crisis of essential commodities, especially fuel, forcing prices to hike beyond imaginable. Now, government has announced to halt the COVID-19 testing for a period of 14 days to reduce on the backlog at the border points. The Internal Affairs Ministry has also raised concern over former diplomats who failed to return executive passports to get their commiserating with their status. Now, the move is targeting former MPs who feel uncomfortable to return their common life as other Ugandans.
And away from those who feel very uncomfortable to return to their normal life as Ugandans, we now move to the operation by Kampala Capital City Authority, where KCCA embarked on an operation of cleaning the city by removing kiosks from the streets of Kampala. KCCA physical planner Albert Amoti Agaba said the kiosks congest and block walkways, making the city messy. However, the traders have faulted KCCA for having carried on the operation without prior notice. It was a sad day for traders operating in kiosks along the streets of downtown Kampala as KCCA launched a crackdown on these kiosks in the name of cleaning the city. The operation that started mid-morning around Clock Tower in the heart of Kampala left hundreds of traders stranded. Isma is one of the traders that has been affected in the KCCA operation of removing kiosks. He said he owned more than 10 kiosks on the streets of Kampala, employing over 20 people. The traders under their umbrella body Uganda Street Vendors Association have faulted KCC for failure to give notice before carrying on the operation. They also blame KCCA for having issued licenses for their businesses while aware that the kiosks are illegal. However, KCCA physical planner in charge of the operation, Albert Agaba, disputed the claims of the traders, saying their businesses along the streets are illegal, and this they know.
Well, away from that, we talk security highlights. Now, among that, we have the police. The Uganda police is looking for the inspector of schools in Kawempe division over fire which caught a school over the weekend. Now, the police spokesperson Fred Nanga says that the condition of Crescent Junior School, Chibedi in Kawempe, was not in proper condition to host students. Now, so far, 3 staff of this school are under police custody. Now, the fire which caught over the weekend in 2 schools of Crescent Primary School and that of Chotela claimed 5 lives. Police investigations have also indicated that as the conditions of these schools were not compatible to harbour students, which undermine the relevance of the inspector of schools. At Crescent Primary School, Chibedi, police have arrested 3 staff over neglect of duty, which led to the death of juveniles. Now, police is also intensifying operations on schools which fail to meet obligations of hosting students, especially boarding schools. In other development, police is hunting for a UPDF officer, Major Okua Alpha, over the incident where a traffic officer of police, that is Constable Mukebezi Ronald, was shot while on duty. Police is also holding 2 pastors of Healing and Deliverance Church over child trafficking, and police has established these kidnapped juvenile for ritual sacrifices. Interesting. We move on to international stories.
Well, now we'll be looking at our first story, where we will look at China halts Winter Olympics ticket sales as Omicron variant arrives in Beijing. Now, China has announced that tickets to the Winter Olympics will no longer be sold to the general public, as the country's capital recorded its first case of the highly transmittable Omicron variant of the coronavirus. Now, last fall, Beijing had already limited tickets to the games to domestic spectators. On Monday, Beijing's Winter Olympic Organization Committee said they would be further restricted. Now, only certain approved groups will be allowed to watch the Olympics in person after undergoing strict measures to prevent transmission of the virus. Given the current situation of COVID-19, the pandemic, in order to ensure the safety of all participants and spectators, it has been decided that the tickets should not be sold anymore, but be part of an adapted program that will invite groups of spectators to be present in site during the games, the International Olympic Committee said in a statement. Now, the UAE pledged to retaliate after 3 killed in Houthi attack. Now, the UAE has also pledged that is a reprisal after a drone attack claimed by Yemen's Houthi rebel triggered a fuel tank blast that killed 3 people in Abu Dhabi. The United Arab Emirates is part of the Saudi-led military coalition that supports Yemen's government against the Iran-aligned Houthi rebels who have repeatedly targeted Saudi Arabia with cross-border attacks. Now, but on Monday, the attack is the first deadly assault on its own soil, acknowledged by the UAE and claimed by the rebels, who said they had fired ballistic missiles and deployed armed drones. 2 Indians and Pakistan working for an oil giant, ADNOC, died as 3 petrol tanks exploded near a storage facility, while a fire also ignited in the construction area of Abu Dhabi airport in the heart of UAE. Now back into Africa, while we're looking at several protesters killed in Sudan anti-coup rallies. Now, Sudanese security forces have killed at least 3 protesters during rallies against last year's military coup. Now, medics and activists have said before a visit by the US diplomat seeking to revive a transition to the civilian rule. Now, thousands of protesters demonstrating against military rule marched towards the presidential palace in capital Khartoum on Monday, drawing volleys of tear gas from security forces. Now, protesters who also gathered some 2 kilometers, that is 1.5 miles from the palace, blocked a main road into Al Diyam neighborhood and burned tires before starting their marches. Now, huge crowds have also regularly taken to the streets demanding a return to civil or civilian rule since the military coup on the 25th of October ended a power sharing agreement that began after long-time ruler Omar al-Bashir was removed from power amid a popular uprising in April 2019.
News after Tonga cutoff. Well, Tongans living overseas are facing an anxious wait for news of their loved ones after a volcano triggered a tsunami. Now, the underwater volcano erupted on Saturday, about 65 kilometers north of the capital, Nuku'alofa. The eruption, which was heard as far away as the US, caused waves higher than a meter to crash into Tonga. Now, local authorities have not confirmed any deaths, but communications are also crippled, making it difficult to establish the scale of destruction. However, the brother of a British woman said that she died after being swept away in the waves. Angela Glover, 50, was washed away while trying to save her dogs, and more than 10 kilometers away, 2 people drowned off a beach in northern Peru amidst abnormally high waves. Now, both New Zealand and Australia sent surveillance flights to find out more, with New Zealand saying that there has been significant damage along the western coast of Tongatapu, that is Tonga's main island. But the Red Cross gave some cause for hope, saying that reports suggested that the damage was not as bad as had been feared. Now, we believe that from the information that we can put together, that it is not as catastrophic in those major population centers as we first thought that it might be. Now, so that's good news, said Katie Greenwood, who is coordinating the organization's response from Fiji.
Well, much is still happening in the country, and of course we do not tire to remind you that speaking about what we're going through, on top of the fuel, on top of well, Valentine's, there's coronavirus. And clearly we want all of you guys to go get vaccinated. Remember, the campaign is still on as we head into the full reopening of our economy. The fear is that cases may rise or probably surpass the 50% mark, but only way to work around the same is that we must have everybody at least vaccinated, those that are eligible. For those who are also eligible, go get the booster jabs. Now, trust me, it is what we need to be safe. The virus may be around for some time. I was speaking with a colleague who's a biochemist expert, and told me this whole thing and viruses never go. You remember when people were being told to go and vaccinate against hepatitis B? And people didn't go to, you know, these are all things that we normally take for granted. Now there's a big campaign again against polio. And parents are blocking their children, some are hiding them. What is wrong with you people? What do you want? I don't know.
I will tell you one thing for sure. As a Ugandan, from what I've seen, I think we have a tendency of you lag behind until actually the situation gets out of hand. Yeah. And then we start panicking, and then you realize that everybody is flooding the centers. You know, if the government actually asked people to go and get themselves vaccinated, if you remember at the start, Ugandans were very reluctant, they were very complacent, you know, and there were very many questions. But until they realized that the situation was getting worse, some people started losing loved ones, friends, you know, you lose somebody you know, and that's when it actually kicks in. You're like, okay, I think this is really serious, I need to do something about it. But it shouldn't be like that. It really shouldn't be. Honestly.
And imagine there are people who came out to say corona is not real. You can imagine.
It's really absurd.
And they are supposed to. Let's talk about facts, guys. Somebody normally says that science is a sort of like, it's not fiction, it's a fact. And guess what? Corona is real. Get vaccinated. Protect your loved ones. Now kids are at school. Remember, kids go, they mingle with others, they come back home. You can imagine the risk. The only blanket we have against COVID-19 is definitely vaccination. Well, about now, what else do we have to give you? Of course, Robert is holding into his hands some of his best drink, and I know the best witness I have against Robert is Molin. So,
well, I know. By the way, you shouldn't think he just advertises for Hallelujah. I think he also enjoys that.
He enjoys Hallelujah.
It's a good test, and I can tell you there are a lot of people on this team that do enjoy the test. Yeah.
When it comes to issues of health, I don't compromise.
Okay.
That's why I tell Ugandans, go get that jab. You're very good at doing things at the last minute. In case government came out and said, after 1 week from today, there will be no free vaccination, you're going to see how people flood health centers to get vaccinated. If you remember the registration of SIM cards, the national IDs, so you have that tendency of wanting to do things. You always think there is much time for you. There isn't time, because this is about your health. And in the same spirit, I come with Hallelujah Tamarind and Hallelujah Ginger Tea. These products boost your immune system. So for you to be able to fight off a number of diseases, please, at only 1,500, imagine, you can get yourself a bottle. For the parents, the children went back to school. There are a lot of flus, coughs, colds here. So get a carton of this one, because it's very tasty, and I like it so much. It will really help fight off some of those diseases that will later, they will call you to pick up your child. So avoid that. Get Hallelujah Froxology products, and you'll have a smile every morning because you'll be healthy.
To our song for the day, something quite interesting, and definitely I want also to look at the poll question, but just before we get into also the poll question, let me just say this. I'll ask Robert. I think we will be having the same challenge. Robert, do you have issues with homework? Do you ever have? I just don't ever understand that thing. But let's look at our poll question. And,
well, we are seeing what is happening right now, especially when it comes to fuel. People are spiraling out because of some of them have called ridiculous prices of fuel. So we would really love to know. We want you to share your views with us on how actually these prices can be moderated to avoid businesses from breaking down. Now, the question is up on Twitter. The hashtag is UBCGMU, and you can also feel free to WhatsApp us on 0709 602 592.
Well, of course, as you answer that poll question, keep it. I don't know if you're suffering with homework. That is not fair.
And you know what is very complicated?
Honestly.
You do the homework with a child and then they fail. So,
okay, we are
so just a minute. So, if the teacher asks, but who helped you do the homework?
Daddy.
Just imagine daddy. So and some of these questions are not on Google. So
No, some of them are on Google. Just Google these things.
and you parents of nowadays.
No, you just sum up, but don't make sure that they don't see you Googling.
Let me tell you
Because
something.
later they'll be like, but you know, Daddy, you were Googling these
just
things.
never
Now
do
they
those
understand.
things.
Even P3, you'll see a kid actually calling you out on why you are Googling this question.
I know.
So there will be nothing. So just Google and they're like, you know what, you asked me what? And then you check and like, oh, okay, I think that is.
So teachers,
find it working.
we have been there for you throughout this COVID time. Be there. Why do you give this hard? Let's take a break. Let's have a song for the day. When we come back, we'll be taking you through our newsweek. Good morning.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala.
When you hear these names, you may think you're probably watching the English Premier League or UEFA Champions League, but it's none of those. It's the 2021 Total Energies Africa Cup of Nations from 9th January to February 6, 2022. All these global elite football stars will be in Cameroon to grace the continent's most prestigious sporting event. 52 games, 24 countries, one continent, one trophy, one station, live, free and exclusive to your public broadcaster. UBC, inspiring Uganda.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda.
It's a cold morning, and in case you're coming to town, don't forget to carry a cardigan, a sweater or something to keep you warm. And in case you have infants that are not yet of school-going age, please ensure you leave them in safe hands and they are warm enough to avoid likelihoods of colds, fever that could come as a result of cold weather. Once again, this is Good Morning Uganda, your current affairs show. Every weekday, we're here, and it is time we look at a newsreel where we select a story and give you an in-depth analysis. But before we do that, let's once again first take a look at our poll question this morning.
And share your views on how high fuel prices can be moderated to avoid businesses from breaking down. Be able to share your thoughts or opinions on Twitter. That is a hashtag UBCGMU, and of course, mostly for you guys, share with us what your thoughts are on our WhatsApp number, that is 0709 60 25 92, and of course on Facebook as well. But for some of you who are watching us on YouTube, again, you could leave a message in regard to our poll question.
And in the same line, we're discussing increasing fuel prices, which we know this all stemmed from COVID-19, more so with Omicron variant, where government found it very wise to test, that is, the truck drivers. Well, Uganda is a landlocked country, and most of the fuel we use here comes via road, and these are fuel trucks. So when the testing was set up about 3 weeks ago, and of course, each truck driver had to part with about $30, a price they felt was so high, and they went on a strike. Now, this meant that we won't have the flow of fuel as planned in the country, and this shortage led to skyrocketing price. Some petrol stations, that is in Hoima, Oil City, went as far as 12,000 per litre of fuel. Here in Kampala, some buy at 6,000, others 5,000, and some of them, there isn't a price. So you just get to the pump, and that is when you get to know how much they are selling this fuel. Others, they have gone into what we call hiding or holding. That is, they buy this fuel in bulk, then store it to create scarcity, so that at the end of the day, the cost goes high. Because we know factors of demand and supply. If there's so much demand of any commodity, definitely the price will go high. So holding or hiding creates that. And this is also another problem that has come in. We know fuel is also another issue that has a trickle-down effect, because once you attach anything to fuel, you've attached transportation, and the price will continuously go high. Felix, this time around, it's not the first time that the country is experiencing such a thing. There was a time after elections in Kenya, you remember, and trucks would not come in smoothly. We have reserves that we were told they can only take us for about 10 days because of what we have, according to the spokesperson that is of that sector. But issues of COVID-19, this is not the first time we've had COVID-19 or we have testing. How best should this situation have been handled to avoid what is happening? Because finally we see now government saying, okay, now you enter freely.
No, but, well, Robert, I wouldn't subscribe fully to the school of thought that this whole thing is because of testing. I don't even believe it. I find that in my own line as an excuse or mediocrity fallacy by whoever thinks of it that way. Why? You have seen the fuel prices go up since last year. You know, because of the abnormality we are looking at today, that's why we think that prices have just gone up, because we are seeing prices in 7,000, 10,000. But as a matter of fact, prices started getting hiked around, I think, December, November.
So this has just worsened the situation.
From 3,200, 3,000, 3,100 to about 3,900, 4,000. And probably we got a bit used to the 4,000, 4,100, 4,000, 4,200, like that. So when you talk about, by then, was the cause that?
They're saying there was a problem with the crude oil that they were using on the global market. So you find that the prices have steadily, by the way, I'll use that word, have been steadily getting up, up, and up. Now, the most painful thing is that we have been noticing, and all of us try to sort of like act like maybe it will come to pass. It will come to pass, not until it came to actually not to pass a couple of days ago. This whole thing of testing and what shouldn't be a problem. And you see, that's where you see some of the things that happen bring the evidence of poor governance in particular sectors. If you say Uganda has reserves, and I don't know how true that is. Someone, White happens to be the spokesperson of the Petroleum Authority, said they could only take us for 10 days.
So have they? Why didn't they use that for the last 10 days? We have not been there for 2 weeks even. Why hasn't that been being used? It is reserved for what?
Maybe for a tougher time.
For heaven, I don't know, sit again. How extreme can extreme be? Because if you are buying a liter of fuel, when you're buying a liter 10,000, what extreme do you expect? You get it, unless it's a lie. And for me, until I see that coming in as an intermediate, you know, to remedy, I think it's a lie. I'll be honest with you. You see, some of these things when they happen, they are the evidences of poor governance in some areas, as I was saying, and I'll tell you why. One, fuel, between you and me, and you rightly put it, is the heart of every almost economy. And the reasons are simply there. One, because of the kind of economies we hold, whereby people almost use fuel to fuel every transaction in terms of movement, in terms of infrastructure, in terms of transactions, just to mention but a few, you understand. Even the person who sells a razor blade will tell you there's an effect of fuel. Now, for any serious leader in that line, shouldn't take that for granted. So if you're talking about reserves, you remember the crisis of 2007? What did we learn? If you remember, were there lessons learned? Let's be honest.
That's why I told you earlier that this is not the first time you're having such an incident. For
some of the students of history, there's that famous saying, they forgot and learned nothing. Don't know, was it the French? Something to do, but it's a phrase in history. And I know Molen didn't. Probably.
When was cutting frogs?
Yeah, maybe I'll ask Philo there, who should have. But what I'm saying that we have not learned anything over the years. And given the fact that we are a landlocked country, that gives us all reasons. This, honestly speaking, this shouldn't be a problem of Uganda. You have the capacity to store fuel. At least you maintain coal for about a month, and then you say, "Banai, we have failed. At least we have But you cannot say, you can't even maintain 3 days, 4 days, where you have scarcity, people being stuck at the border. So, and then someone boldly comes out to say, we have reserves. You're reserving for what? The purpose of the reserve should be able to assist, you get it, the users to be comfortable. But out of 10 petrol stations in Kampala, 6 don't have fuel. You get it? Now, the 4 that have fuel, 2 of them are deceptive. That one they will put, a liter is probably 4,960. When you go to the pump, the actual price, and that one, many people can wait and testify to that, the actual price is about 7,000 something. They are deceptive. Now, the 2 which are trying to be honest, they have their fuel at about 10,000.
And others do not put the price. You only know the price.
Very painfully.
When you're at the pump.
We are talking of reopening fully the economy. You cannot fully reopen the economy with such lacunas and stampedes. You can't. It is as good as like I wouldn't want to use that Lugana saying, it may sound, but it's just like telling someone, like you have someone in prison, then you're like, okay, we are going to let you go, but katukusule muchibira. They don't know where they are. It won't make economic sense as we head into the reopening if the economy, one of the most important catalysts of this economy's, of course, our growth, is not well dealt with. And I think this should bother Cabinet as they sit, probably tomorrow or one of the days, whichever they choose. They should bother them that as we head into the reopening, this is a big hindrance. And yet already we have challenges with the economy because we have been there for the last 2 years.
Molen, one of the issues that has been raised is the holding factor, that we are having traders that are very optimistic and exploitive in one way, in that they are buying fuel in bulk, they're taking this fuel, hiding it, which will create more demand, and then later they're able to sell at really higher prices. And this I saw in one part of this country where the RDC is saying such should even be arrested, because such people are the ones causing, worsening the problem. But one would say it's a liberal economy. And of course, I'm free to plan how I want. I just need your comment on this.
Well, you look at the fact that, Robert, we are talking about Uganda, and I don't want to forget that, I want people to forget that this is somehow a habit of Ugandans. They will see an opportunity in every situation, in every challenge. There is someone out there who is going to see an opportunity. So when you talk about the traders who are stocking the fuel right now, this is not something new. They have always, went out for something like that. But I don't think that's where the problem is. They are not the ones creating the issue. They are also taking advantage. They're not worsening. They're taking advantage of business because it's business for them. You see a business opportunity, you can make money, go for it. So it's not like for them, they created the issue in the first place. And when you're keenly talking about the fuel issue, I want us to also focus on the fact that this is all coming up because of the supply chain at the border. Now, recently, the fuel, before that, like Felix was also mentioning, we did have a global crisis in fuel, and much of that was obviously related to the environmental concern where the world is trying to phase out, fuel, oil, on the market.
Fossil fuels.
Yeah. So when we're trying to be in such a transition, there is obviously going to be hikes in fuel prices. But that was on a swift run, because at least the years that have been set up, you look at the plan for phasing out fossil fuels is actually going up to 2050. So this is supposed to be a swift plan. But within that, then you add countries which have all these regulations that are now also, adding to the problem. Because if you are not sorting out an issue with the supply chain at the border, we are landlocked. And that is not going to go away. So one thing that we should be taking care of as Uganda is making sure that we do have that complete and smooth chain across our borders. But if you look at the fact that government, when they put up this mandatory COVID-19 testing, I think they did not even put in place a plan of what happens. So for them, they were like, okay, now you have to be tested. But we also look at the fact that Government does not run these fuel stations. These are, you know, companies, different companies owned by different people. So they have no say in how different companies have, you know, reserved their fuel or how much they should be getting out.
But Molly, here you mentioned the issue.
Hold on just a second. So if you do take away that from the companies, then it means like you're trying to meddle as governments. But we also look at most of the companies that have hiked their prices have also had to deal with the fact that their reserves are, you know, are out. Because now they are looking at, and it's not a surprise that recently we would go to a petrol station and there is no fuel at all. So the ones that have are actually hiking the prices. The ones that don't have will tell you we don't have fuel. So I think one thing that we should also focus on is that while we call on government intervention on this, we also look at the fact that, and I want to give this as a point of information, as a person who is a Ugandan and loves Uganda, when we're talking about a national reserve of fuel, that bold kind of move that Felix was undermining, a national reserve is not something to be given out each time we have an issue with fuel. You look at issues that do affect the country at such an extent. Maybe you're in a war and your borders are cut off. Maybe you have an issue with your neighbors and your borders are cut off. And that is something that could go for, you know, a year or something. That is when a national reserve comes out. National reserve doesn't come out because you're holding drivers with fuel at the border. You look at the issues of how to deal with that situation. Like now they have come up to say, okay, let's put this on hold. Let the drivers come in and bring the fuel. That's not an issue that should call for a national reserve to be out in supply. These are things that should be reserved. Like, you see, not for, I'm saying in the unlikely event. The situation
is not that wanting.
So Felix, I've mentioned a lot of examples.
It's normal for Molin.
It's not normal. I'm saying that this is not one of those situations where you run to the national reserve. I want you to get this point clear, Felix.
I'm trying.
Having a national reserve doesn't mean that this is an issue that can be solved locally. At that extent, Uganda, if Ministry of Health can come up and say, okay, let's halt this and allow the fuel to come in. Now, my only challenge is this should have been done sooner. But not that immediately we got, you know, drivers stuck at the border, then we run to the national reserve. It's not a national reserve if you're doing something like that.
Well, to
First of all, we solve
to a certain extent,
what is
I
there.
greatly agree with Molin that yes, the situation is very tough, but it may not be very wanting to the extent if we do have to use our national reserves. I buy into Molin's argument because at least now you can still, it's very expensive, but you can still find it. What comes a time where you can't find it? But to me also, I want us to look at planning, Felix. We've always talked about planning and involving the people in this sector. First, we had this congestion at the border. The Council of Ministers of the East African Community came to an agreement and said, you know what? Charging, for example, Uganda, $30 per truck driver is something fairly expensive. So let's have these tests free of charge. But were we prepared enough? Finally, even with that, we saw we could not continue. Now let them enter so that we can have this problem sorted. And they're still saying because of the high costs incurred, these fuel prices are not about to go down. Let's look at the element of planning. Most of the times we come up with issues, let's take this direction, let's this direction, involving and serious planning to avert such incidents that could be averted.
Planning is entirely entangled in what I said earlier, and probably also what my sister Molin is trying to look at as absence of an emergency. And in our interpretation, it is only extreme that should qualify to be emergency. I'll tell you something, and my reasoning against these reserves is entirely directly related with the reopening of the economy. When you have an economy that has been closed for 2 years, so many sectors of the same are down and doing bad. Now, I don't know which better, I think this is even worse than a war, if you want to look at it into an economic sense. The situations we are in are worse than a war in terms of economy of this country, where you have over 20,000 entities closed, okay? Where you have almost half of the economy not up and running, where you have schools just getting, you cannot say that it is not the right time to deplete your what you want to call
reserves, fuel reserves,
as a way of bringing back the economy. In fact, imagine a situation if some of these reserves, if they are there, again, I want to say that, are brought, whatever is there should be brought out, to have the prices go very low. Look at the effect of that on agriculture as you reopen the economy. Remember, everyone is trying to dust off their shelves in terms of hotels, hospitality. Everyone is up. This is a good catalyst as you try to reopen. Now, if for me, and if for anyone out there doesn't look at this as worse than a war, I wouldn't. But issues of planning, I would say this. You know, like, look at, for example, let me just say this. In terms of planning, as Robert, you brought it. When you look at the issues of planning, how better can you plan? You cannot make a plan without certainty. You can only plan when you have certainty. But if you're not in control of a particular sector of the economy, what plans are you going to, what? Are you going to, let's look at people who transport goods from wherever to wherever. Talk about people's movements. Let me say this. The most important aspects of every economy are for some of you who studied these. One, you must be able to answer the question of shelter for the human resource. Two, you must be able to answer the question of food, feeding. Three, transportation. And then four, general welfare. This answers schools, you know, all these other things. Well, general welfare. Now, all the four aspects of upstanding economy are affected by fuel. Can human resource ably move from point A to point B?
When the fuel prices are making it almost impossible.
That's for you now.
Which is why we're talking about
Can human resource ably be fed? Because they work, unless their engines are also fueled, they can't. But can they also get the general welfares of life? The economy is entirely steered by human resource. We don't have robots in this country. Now, every time you make it hard for the human resource to live, it directly affects the results of an economy. You get it? Today, I can tell you that if an arcade houses 1,000 people, today, it can only, the only people who can come to town to work in that arcade are probably 800. Now, where are the 200? Brings you back to human resource. You get it? Because of the increase of food prices in town, because of fuel, if 1,000 people eat a meal, let's say at 3,000 every day, lunch, it is only 800 now that can afford. It means the one who's selling is going to be affected, but even the people who have not eaten
are also equally affected.
The production rate. So I speak about fuel directly as an effect to demoralizing economic growth, and what's more, in times where we are trying to reopen the economy. I don't take it lightly.
Well, thank you, Felix and Molen. To me, my urge is to government that some of these things, we've gone through them, and all we need is to better plan. We've ever had truck drivers, because of COVID-19 testing, go on strike, and we've ever had such similar incidents. Let's plan better to avert. Let's learn. Let's have a way we learn from the mistakes, our prior mistakes, so that we don't have a repeat of them. It's not the first time we're having COVID-19 testing an issue in this country. So let's do that, and this will enable us avoid these inconveniences that affect every part, every bit of the economy when it comes to fuel. But once again, let's take a look at our poll question this morning.
So impact. share your views on how fuel prices can be moderated to avoid the social impact. And of course, many of you have come on to that is social media platforms. And one cricket, Derek Gargamel says, "Good morning, Molen, Robert, and Felix. I think government is in control of the Ugandan fuel. This inflation about fuel may be caused by over-exportation of fuel to other countries, hence leaving our country with inadequate or insufficient fuel."
Well, when we return, we'll be looking at what is trending in the print media this morning. We'll return.
Mohamed Salah, Naby Keita, Kalidou Koulibaly, Sadio Mane, Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang. When you hear these names, you may think you're probably watching the English Premier League or UEFA Champions League, but it's none of those. It's the 2021 Total Energies Africa Cup of Nations from 9th January to February 6, 2022. All these global elite football stars will be in Cameroon to grace the continent's most prestigious sporting event. 52 games, 24 countries, one continent, one trophy, one station, live, free and exclusive to your public broadcaster. UBC, inspiring Uganda.
Raising voices.
As a teacher, I have the opportunity to shape how children grow and learn. I believe in creating a non-violent school where children feel safe and respected. I promise to lead by example and create a different kind of relationship with my learners, one that helps them grow.
In this time of COVID, what is your promise to the children of Uganda? Because a violence-free childhood is everyone's right. Raising voices.
You know, you could just buy a new smartphone from anywhere in Uganda. Dial *175*94# to activate their 100% double data bonus offer on weekly or monthly bundles for 3 months. Better yet, you automatically receive free 1 GB valid for 30 days. You are hooked already, aren't you? Enjoy 100% double data bonus from Airtel. Buy a smartphone from anywhere in Uganda and insert an Airtel SIM card. Dial *175*94# to activate a 100% data bonus offer on weekly or monthly bundles, valid for 3 months. Dial *175# and select your preferred bundle to activate a 100% data bonus offer on weekly or monthly, valid for 3 months. Airtel Smartphone Network.
It's no secret that ICT makes learning easy.
The strides made in our field could not be possible without it.
And now we can watch our favorite shows.
My radio is my best friend.
UCC provides an enabling regulatory environment and policy guidance for healthy competition. We also facilitate ease of doing business in the communications sector through licensing, standardization, spectrum management, tariff regulation, rural communication development, and consumer empowerment. An informed consumer is an empowered consumer. UCC supports local content and innovations. Driving the development of a robust communication sector in Uganda is Uganda Communications Commission.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda.
With what is happening is our mandate. So for you to fit in any discussion or understand the affairs of the day and what will shape or determine the day, you must make it a date with us. Every weekday from 6:30 till the hour of 9. We're here with a heavy breakfast full of information and, of course, some light moments for you. Now let's take a look at what is trending in the print media. I'm holding the New Vision, and a big headline there. Paul Kagame receives Museveni's message. Government speaks out on Rwanda talks. Still the New Vision, we look at the education column where we see the First Lady in foreign press, that is the Minister for Education and Sports, Janet Kataha Museveni. But Museveni pardons several prisoners, that is prerogative of mercy, and they give you the names of those that benefited from this, totaling to about 79. How Busoga coup was foiled, that is an attempt to throw or dethrone, that is the Chabazinga of Busoga. The Vision gives you more of that. And still we see Gulu water supply to be expanded. Good news for the Northern Connection there. Education, the new curriculum, there's Senior 1 and Senior 2 English language and chemistry, plus more of revision exercise. The New Vision brings you that, but also that is Liberation Day. Baby boom can spill industrial tech off. More of these. The New Vision has brought you that this morning.
Daily monitor fuel prices to stay high, says dealers, and of course a traffic police officer shot by soldiers could lose leg, and UPDF promotes over 500 soldiers. Now Museveni pardons 79 prisoners over health, and Uganda names road after Tutu, Desmond Tutu. Okay, that was quick. And of course today in history, German Evangelical Church donates to Mengo Hospital, and post-World War Peace Conference begins in Paris.
In the New Vision, again, we look at the parenting column there. How does one get children to follow instructions? That is a very big question. Felix would say simply whip them. Then we also have one, child never appreciates the things we do. Well, the experts there, the seniors, give you more regarding that. Looking at the COVID-19 tracker this morning, a new confirmed cases 439. Positivity rate is at 5.9%. Then we look at new death. The number is 13. Total death being 3,424. Once again, get your jab to avoid death, severe illness, and hospitalization, but also ensure you follow the standard operating procedures to avoid contracting and spreading COVID-19.
Now, of course, in sports, Ghana need miracle, Malawi eye history, but of course also Uganda's women fall in hockey AFCON. Bow now, baby cricket cranes face South Africa, and Bull dare to dream for Uganda Cup. Of course, now St. George Black keeper Lukwago from Moldova, Thai, and Bleak wants to set the tone in Barara Rally season opener. Now Jogos move to eat into Busoga fan base, but also quite calls to avenge Altona Swim League first season defeat there now. But what to go one step sweeter? Gaddafi 6 balance.
In the New Vision Sport this morning, there is so much regarding the Africa Cup of Nations, the table, who is playing, we are standing, the various countries are participating, and also there is much regarding who history makers are in the ongoing matches. So the Vision brings you more of that, but not forgetting that our very own Ruben will be here to give you all the sports updates and of course those interesting stories. Don't forget for that.
Well, of course, also to remind all of you, our viewers there, that we will be airing, we do actually air AFCON. Now, all the games we did promise, 52 games, and we have brought you this far where we are about to end the first group session. Now we'll be getting into the second, where we also still want to make announcement and commit that we'll be bringing you all these games. And as I've always said, some of the best commentary analyses on the land and of course internationally, giving a nice feedback. We've been getting some of the feedback since of course the tournament started, but we also appreciate the teams and the people, our family, our viewers who have been stuck on our TVs. Now that is UBC, Magic 1, is it Magic 1, and of course Star TV and U24, and of course also on all our radio stations. Those include that is Magic 100, you have Star FM, you have Whatever, you have those ones, very many.
Radio West.
Radio West.
We have 11 in number.
There are 11 in number, so we have all the games all aired on all platforms of the Uganda Broadcasting Corporation. Again, with the best analyses, guys like John Ban Sentamo, Fifi, Fiona, we have the likes of Michael Wandaga, Eddie Mwesi, Peter Otai there on the commentary doing good as so far. But of course we appreciate. Yesterday we got a couple of tweets of people appreciating what we do, and that is what keeps the guys going. So be able also, if you want to let me make any comment, be able to leave a comment. That is on hashtag UBC AFCON 2021. Be able to leave a comment, and of course let us know how you guys are sharing or enjoying the moment that we're sharing with you as of course UBC through our AFCON team. Now of course the games today to expect or to look out for, do be able to expect a couple of games which will be coming of course on the screen, and I imagine when Norman comes in later he'll be giving probably more insights. But of course we expect to have Ghana there, and this is quite decisive whether they will make it through or stay. We did see of course also Algeria there is limping. Hope it doesn't do a replication of what happened to France in the World Cup when they were defending champions. Then they came and even failed to get out of the groups. But of course today we expect to have Malawi and Senegal, Zimbabwe, Guinea, Gabon versus Morocco, and there Ghana versus Comoros. So be able to glue yourself onto UBC. Don't leave your TV. You can move with your TV, by the way, on YouTube. So there's that
and of course, with a radio, every phone has a radio.
Absolutely.
So
either if you cannot be with us visually, be able to listen to all of our radio stations now across the 11 different volumes. But of course, now we have the traffic lady. But before we go to that, let's just take a sneak peek into what's in the Daily Nation. That is Ruto Raila in a fierce battle for governors. Of course, now Kivutha, that is Kibwana, drops in a presidential ambition back to ODM. Well, of course, much of the story still will talk about the stuck lorries on the border, but also majorly about the elections that will happen this year. But what else we have for you is traffic updates with Madam Officer. Probably should also make comment about these prices of the fuels. Clearly, she may not have much traffic. But on to you, Philo. I guess you also have a couple of feedback from our viewers.
Good morning once again. Just before we get into the traffic updates today, I just want to take you through some of the comments that you sent through regarding the poll question, which was clearly us wanting to know how you think these prices can be moderated to make sure that they get back to normality. And coming in from Agaba from Kakumiro, you're saying, good morning, UBC. I think the fuel problem can't be solved soon because of lack of a clear ministry to update the public. Every organization gives its guidance, which are repressive. Thank you so much, Agaba. And also we have another one that comes from George Kivota from Padel, and is saying that everything is changing. Post-COVID has brought us huge trouble, but this should entirely be on our government to support the economy and struggling citizens. Otherwise, we're most likely to sink into a crisis that we shall not come out of. And we also have another gentleman, Chaze, and he's saying that government should engage fuel sellers or importers, and putting in place a stipend can be drawn across. This would steer them to keep within affordable limits for we the end users. And this should be the top job now for the finance and trade ministries, URA inclusive. Thank you so much for the feedback, and hopefully something is going to be done about it with immediate effect. Now, getting back to the traffic updates, well, yesterday we had a bit, the cars that were in town were less compared to, the normal days. Now, I don't know what explains that, but the traffic was actually not so crazy on the usual. But today being a new day, you can never know, it's very unpredictable. So just to give you some of the updates, from Ginger Road, if you are planning to get into town, the traffic is actually starting to build up right from Centenary Park. And if you're heading to town, it will shift eventually when you move ahead, and then it starts to build up again. So you need to continue, but again, there are very many other shortcuts that you can use. For instance, you could actually use to get onto Station Road right from Access Road, as opposed to using Ginger Road. And if you're planning to leave the city center, well, the traffic is actually moving, so you don't have to worry about leaving the city center. But if you're using the Station Road, you can do that because the traffic is moving, it's swift, so you can use the Station Road to connect onto Kampala Road. As you can see now, the green lights here clearly show you that the traffic is it's shifting, so you have nothing to worry about. And where you see these orange lines, it shows you that it's starting to build up. So if you can actually manage to beat it as soon as you can, then that would be better for you. And also, speaking of more shortcuts, you could actually use Nkrumah Road as well, which is also shifting, and it will take you down to Basso Road that you can use as well to connect to Kampala Road. You can also use Nkrumah Road that will also connect you to Entebbe Road, as you can see, and it will also connect you as well to Kampala Road. But that is if you're actually planning to enter the city. But if you're still planning to leave the city, you could still use Entebbe Road, where you can see that the traffic is actually shifting, so you have nothing to worry about. And you could as well choose to use Nkrumah Road. Now that takes you continuously to Kampala Road at the city center, where the traffic is actually starting to really build up, as you can see. So I could say from the look of things, people are not really skeptical about it. They have decided to, you know, get into the city and find a way. They find a way to also work on things they have to do. And this is now the lower side of Kampala, but getting to the upper side of Kampala, if you really are planning to leave the city center, you could also use Buganda Road. As you can see, it's a one-way, so definitely you'd be using it to leave the city center. And also the traffic is shifting, because where you see the green light, it shows you that you can leave without being inconvenienced by any kind of traffic whatsoever. That, again, I insist, if you are leaving the city center. However, if you're still getting to the city center right from Ginger Road, you could actually use a couple of other roads. You could choose to use you could use Nile Avenue, which shows you clearly that the green lights, the shift is actually moving, so you really have nothing to worry about, that it is the shortcut. You could also use the Winton Road to connect to Kampala Road eventually, and you could also decide to use Parliamentary Avenue to get into the city center. So you have nothing to worry about. There are quite a number of shortcuts you have an option to pick from, as opposed to sticking to the main road, because I know there are some people who are sticklers to the main road, which is not exactly the best thing sometimes. So you have to be very smart, and considering right now that we are trying to find ways of how we can be able to use our fuel, especially in these hard economic times. So you could actually opt to use most of these shortcuts. I think they will try to help you accessing the city center, and also help you access you know, your workplaces in given areas. Well, that's it for the traffic updates. I will leave you to the weather lady, Mollen. Speaking of which, Mollen, today morning when I got out of my house, I realized that I can actually view a full moon. Now, I don't know whether this is because of the climate changes or anything, but it's been a while since I saw a full moon. I don't know, is there any explanation for this?
Well, this time of the year, we actually have a full moon calendar, and this is always stipulated every month. There is always a day when you have a full moon. Now, it's already actually still there, because with a full moon, you look at the extent that it will even continue into the day. So sometimes you'll find the sun coming out, but then we'll still have the moon. So that is something that happens every month. But this, for January 1, is quite different.
Okay.
And it did actually start off just a few minutes before midnight. Now, I'm beating myself up. I'm like, I wish I was up to see it, because when you see it at that time, it's bright. bright.
Yes.
And that's when, you know, you feel like you've seen a full moon. I know.
I won't lie, because I was very excited to see a full moon, and it was actually very bright.
Yeah, yeah. And we always have those, and I think the next one is due February. But the one we had this year, what is interesting about the one we're starting with for January is that this one is called the wolf moon. Now, the history about this kind of moon is that it was associated with wolf sounds. Now, for this time of the year, this is the time when wolves will be moving around, hailing and, you know, making all that sound, which is why it was named the wolf moon. Now, also you look at most of the namings that are done across with full moons are always associated to the old times, and also the wolf moon at times has been named to be one of the old, you know, old moon or ice moon. So some of these namings come after, you know, some articles that were written about this time of the year, and it's viewed actually across the whole world.
Well, this is really exciting. I can actually give a few facts now about the full moon. Well, I'm handing it to Mollen to give you the weather updates. Otherwise, have a wonderful morning. I am Philomena Masco.
Well, thank you very much, Philo, for taking us through the traffic. But also, we're still continuing to see what happens around, how does the full moon actually come to happen? You look at all these rotations across the planets. And one that has been noted for this time is that this is the same time you actually get to see some of the planets. So Saturn is also to the other side of the moon. And already we do have scientists. NASA came up last night to also talk to the people who will be viewing the moon, because in some parts of the world it's actually not yet viewed, because the alerts are coming out even 3 hours. Now we're lucky that at least hours has already passed, but the moon is still over the sky. And actually right now, if you have an open sky, just look up, you still have that full moon. It's starting to fade, but at least we did have that for here in Uganda and across Africa. But some of the parts of the world that have not seen this, NASA is giving out alerts for a lookout on some of the planets that actually do rotate for this time of the year. So Saturn is one of the planets that are likely to be viewed also at the same time, and then Jupiter. So they're saying that if you're closely looking at this full moon for January, you could also look at Jupiter in that kind of category, but that is to a higher level of viewing, you know, using telescopes and all that. But well, we also do have still devastating news coming in from Tonga, and that is likely to also affect the livelihood of the people there. Now, the problem with Tonga right now is that the communication has been cut off, and what we do know coming in from that area is that also the airports are closed, and there is no way to provide relief to most of the areas across Tonga. Now, this has also hindered international intervention to make sure that they assess the damage, and this is something that is still ongoing across the area. But we also want to look at the analysis that has been done from the damage of this volcanic eruption. Now, we do know that the eruption triggered a tsunami, and that was, you know, a lot of water is coming from the ocean pouring onto, you know, the island. And so far, the damage that we see, we are comparing the before and after the tsunami did happen across most of the island. Now, you look at some of the towns like Pangai town, and that is in Pangai district, also in Hapai division across the island. Now, you look at some of the destruction that has been done. Most of the buildings have been, you know, cut off. Now, although we don't have reports of death, but we also can't rule it out, because there is no communication coming from Tonga Island right now. The airports are closed. There is no way to access the island right now. And also, you look at the fact that having this aerial view itself from Sentinel, because it's coming in from Copernicus, Sentinel 3 satellites, was hard because there's still volcanic ash, you know, in the atmosphere, and this is also hindering the analysis over there. But looking at the before and after, there's a lot of damage that has been over that area. Most of the buildings no longer exist right now. You look at that green cover that was there before the tsunami, before the eruption, is now, you know, no more. That has all been swept off due to the effects of this eruption. Now, also more on the villages, you look at the Numuka village, which is also on the island, Hapai division. You look at some of the buildings that were also affected. Now, much of the effect that is coming through still, the buildings that were distracted, the green cover there, you clearly can see that there has been huge damage. And also, from what you can see on the clouds that are hopping over the after picture, that is still coming in from the analysis on Sentinel-2, those are satellites over that area. You look at the fact that all that has been swept away. You do have volcanic ash in the atmosphere. And right now, even if we don't have reports of death across the area, I know there is a lot of damage across this place. And so far, authorities are doing all they can to make sure that they access the island and know how much damage has been done. But what we're seeing from the satellite clear is that most of these places could be no more. You also look at one of the villages from Kalfu district, and that is Tongatapu division. Tongatapu is also an island that is also attached to Tonga. Now look at the structure before of Tongatapu there and the one that is after. Clearly there has been a lot of damage, and most of these are not even visible. And the structures over here are no more. So that means that this has been worst affected, and so far, actually, even the story we read earlier in our international stories and nature stories, Tongatapu is one of the areas that has been greatly affected, and it could be no more for a while. But still, there is going to be much of the analysis, but what certainly is showing really doesn't look good for this morning across that area. Now, also the challenges that are coming in with communication and people being unable to access this area is going to be hard to even bring in the relief. Even if there were people that are still survivors from this, the damage is much, and we don't know whether they will be helped, because now accessing an island is hard. Even for the boats that could even cross to that area, you look at the volcanic ash that is still in the atmosphere affecting the area. Now this is also before the collapse. And we look at one of the volcanoes that did start off from the area where you see that white, the white color and that orange line indicating the collapse of the caldera. Now the caldera is that one area where the tsunami hit most. If you look at it was like the center of this volcanic eruption. Now in the after story, you look at that being no more. The caldera is already gone over that area, and it has collapsed. So that's one of the islands that have been very, very much affected as well. And you look at, I don't know whether there will be a steady recovery for most of the places within Tonga. It's proving to be something that we can't even access right now. The geologists are already there assessing how much time it will take, but we also still have those pressure waves that are coming in from the eruption. So that means there could be more of the damage, and it could be one of those islands that we think about, like what did happen to Fiji in 2019, where this was worst hit by a tropical cyclone, and the whole of Fiji, much of Fiji was swept away. A lot of death, a lot of destruction, and up to now they are still in recovery from that extreme weather events. But this is a natural event, but also causing catastrophic damage over that area. And when we talk about nature and weather, this is something really beyond our control sometimes. And you just have to adapt to what is happening, and also look out for what you can do in terms of when that does occur, what are you going to do? But well, away from that, we want to come back home and take a look at the weather that is happening across the country today. We will be tapping in from our satellites that are over Uganda for this morning. We take a look at how the weather is looking like. Now, far from what happened yesterday morning, there were a lot of rains across almost everywhere in the country, but now we're seeing a relaxation in most of these rainy systems. Now, most of that is coming still towards the Karamoja region. Now, this area has also been dealing with mostly dry weather, but for the last 3 days, we've been seeing at least more of the rains coming through towards Karamoja region. Now, this morning, we're also looking at that system that is coming in from Western Kenya, and that is likely to be bringing us rains across most areas over Karamoja, Moroto, Kabong. That area can expect to have a little bit of rains as the day progresses. Now, much of the country is still having cloudy conditions, and you also look at that cloud which is contributing. Now, that cloudness is the one that is contributing to the cold weather. So even when we don't have much of the rains across most areas, there is that coldness, and a lot of that has to do with the cloud cover that is still over the skies, as you can see in those white colors. Now, we do have also a rainy system that did start off from Lake Victoria, south of Lake Victoria, and that is bringing us a little bit of rains towards the western part of Lake Victoria. That includes also southwestern Uganda towards Mbarara. That area is already having those cloudy conditions, and that could be bringing us rains this morning across most places within southwestern Uganda. You also look at Kabale Highlands. We do have some of that is coming through across Lake
Albert, south of Lake Albert. So that means that we could be looking at rainy conditions across areas within Fort Portal. You look at Ntoroko, that area can look out for rains for this morning. But much of the country seems to be quite clearing up. We do have most of the systems that are developing from Kenya actually moving westwards, and that could also bring us a little bit of rains, especially look at the eastern part of Lake Victoria where we have Tororo, Ginger. That area could also be having rainy conditions later as the day progresses. But we'll go ahead and take a look into our forecast that we have for this morning across a few areas, but it looks like most of the places are starting off with cloudy conditions, and some of that might develop into rainy conditions. We look at southwestern Uganda where we have Marara, Ibanda, Bushenyi and Rubirizi. We are forecasting isolated rains. We already have those clouds developing. Those will be bringing the isolated rains, but starting off at a cool 25 degrees centigrade, and we could be looking at that similar system later in the afternoon as well. Now, eastern Uganda, where we have Soroti, Katakwi, Amuria and Kumi, we're forecasting light rains again. We'll be having those starting off at 27, quite warm, but also that is likely to clear up as the evening progresses. Now, also looking at the eastern part of Central, where we have Luwero, Wobulenzi, Bururi, Nakaseke, we have Nakasongola in that category. We are forecasting isolated showers. Now, those are starting off at a warm 27 degrees centigrade. Also, that rainy system is expected still in the afternoon, so we could be dealing with similar weather later as the day progresses over that area. Now we move on to central part of northern Uganda, where we have Gulu, Kitgum, Padel, Ajumani. We are forecasting isolated rains as well. Starting off with a cool 26, we still have those clouds over there, and we're likely to have rains developing starting off at 26, but could also be looking at the warm up later in the afternoon. Temperatures are likely to go a little bit up. Now coming back here, that is the central part of Lake Victoria, where we have Kampala, Entebbe, Wakiso and Mukono. We have those rains in the forecast. Some of the areas, especially close to Lake Victoria, will be having those rains. We're starting off at a pleasant 26 degrees centigrade. We could also be looking at that system later in the afternoon, still, sticking around for different areas across that area. Now, you look at some of the areas that might also be likely to have those rains. We are talking about the eastern part of Lake Victoria, Jinja, Tororo, and also across Mount Elgon, Highland, where we have Mbali, Bududa. That area also gets the effect of Mount Elgon, so that could also enhance the wet weather activities over there. But I can tell you one thing. The morning is still going to feel cold for a lot of places within the country, so it's safe to still have that warm jacket for now. But later we could also be looking at more of reduced wet weather activity. Now it looks like even today we have a reduction, but tomorrow there might be still a pickup, especially within the southern sector of Uganda. We could still pick up on more of those rains. Probably even a repeat of yesterday is what we could look out for tomorrow. But not to worry, I'll be here to take you through the updates and the forecast for that is tomorrow morning. Now until then, I want to leave you with Good Morning Uganda agenda. Robert will be here to take you through that, and later do not forget we do have sports highlights. Ruben will be coming in. We do have highlights from AFCON, and we've been mentioning this. UBC is still at the forefront of bringing you all the games from AFCON, and this is the one station you can't leave during this time, so please be sure to keep it with us. And also our conversations are still ongoing. You can hit us on Twitter, that is at #UBCGMU. My name is Molen Kenyina. I want to wish you a wonderful morning.
This is Good Morning Uganda.
It's no secret that ICT makes learning easy.
The strides made in our field could not be possible without it.
And now we can watch our favorite show.
My radio is my best friend.
UCC provides an enabling regulatory environment and policy guidance for healthy competition. We also facilitate ease of doing business in the communications sector through licensing, standardization, spectrum management, tariff regulation, rural communication development, and consumer empowerment. An informed consumer is an empowered consumer. UCC supports local content and innovations, Driving the development of a robust communication sector in Uganda is Uganda Communications Commission.
Pick of the day on UBC, brought to you by
how to get points. Just use MTN to make calls, send SMS, load airtime, buy bundles, or pay for MTN subscription services.
Everywhere you go, MTN.
Raising voices.
As a community member, I think we need to change the way we act in response to violence against children. In my small way, I can be a leader in preventing violence in my community. I promise to work with my neighbor to create violence-free homes and communities for our children.
In this time of COVID, what is your promise to the children of Uganda? Because a violence-free childhood is everyone's right. Raising voices.
Mohamed Salah, Nabi Keita, Kalidou Koulibaly, Sadio Mane, Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang. When you hear these names, you may think you're probably watching the English Premier League or UEFA Champions League, but it's none of those. It's the 2021 Total Energies Africa Cup of Nations from 9th January to February 6th, 2022. All these global elite football stars will be in Cameroon to grace the continent's most prestigious sporting event. 52 games, 24 countries, one continent, one trophy, one station, live, free and exclusive to your public broadcaster. UBC, inspiring Uganda.
Enjoy convenience today with Airtel Money School Pay, FlexiPay or Bridge Schools. To pay school fees using FlexiPay, dial *185#. Select option 6 School Fees. Select option 3 FlexiPay. Enter the school code. Enter the student number. Enter the amount. Enter the PIN number to complete payment. Pay school fees conveniently using Airtel Money. Airtel Money. Instant, secure, borderless.
When you talk about our motherland Uganda, the Pearl of Africa, you cannot fail to smile because of the smile that fills the faces of the citizens. Our nice good weather and nature that sustains us all, that enables us all to continue each in their own way because we are all different even according to each individual's work. But what joins us to become one person is the sweetness from the flavored drink Alleluia Jingati drink and Alleluia Tamarind drink. The flavor that quenches your thirst while at the same time treating and healing your body because it is 100% natural. Enjoy the drink that has got the tamarind juice in it. Made by Alleluia Reflexology, Healthy Solutions and Nutritional Research Center Limited. Get yourself a bottle of Alleluia from all shops around.
You know, you could just buy a new smartphone from anywhere in Uganda. Dial *175*94# to activate their 100% double data bonus offer on weekly or monthly bundles for 3 months. Better yet, you automatically receive free 1 GB valid for 30 days. You are hooked already, aren't you? Enjoy 100% double data bonus from Airtel. Buy a smartphone from anywhere in Uganda and insert an Airtel SIM card. Dial *175*94# to activate a 100% data bonus offer on weekly or monthly bundles. Valid for 3 months. Dial *175# and select your preferred bundle to activate a 100% data bonus offer on weekly or monthly bundles. Valid for 3 months. Airtel, the smartphone network.
Mohamed Salah, Nabi Keita, Kalidou Koulibaly, Sadio Mane, Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang. When you hear these names, you may think you're probably watching the English Premier League or UEFA Champions League, but it's none of those. It's the 2021 Total Energies Africa Cup of Nations from 9th January to February 6th, 2022. All these global elite football stars will be in Cameroon to grace the continent's most prestigious sporting event. 52 games, 24 countries, one continent, one trophy, one station, live, free and exclusive to your public broadcaster. UBC, inspiring Uganda.
Ooh. Look, the thing goes clink, clink, clink. Ooh.
Grab an ice-cold bottle of Pepsi Max today and drink to your bold lifestyle. Enjoy maximum taste with no sugar. Now available at a shop near you. Maximum taste, no sugar.
Patriotism is a feeling of love, devotion, and the willingness to sacrifice for one's country.
I say no to corruption because I put my country first. I choose peace over violence because I put my country first.
Patriotic, Uganda first. This message is brought to you by the National Secretariat for Patriotism Co-Uganda, Office of the President.
Raising voices.
As a teacher, I have the opportunity to shape how children grow and learn. I believe in creating a non-violent school where children feel safe and respected. I promise to lead by example and create a different kind of relationship with my learners, one that helps them grow.
In this time of COVID, what is your promise to the children of Uganda? Because a violence-free childhood is everyone's right. Raising voices.
Patriotism is a feeling of love, devotion, and the willingness to sacrifice for one's country.
I say no to corruption because I put my country first. I choose peace over violence because I put my country first.
I love Uganda. I serve Uganda. I sacrifice for Uganda. I'm loyal to Uganda. I love myself.
Be patriotic. Uganda first. This message is brought to you by the National Secretariat for Patriotism Co-Uganda, Office of the President.
Sasula school fees mu bwangu ddala ng'okozesa MTN Momo. Nyiga star emu65 star 80 hash yingiza mu student code eyakuweebwa essomero. Ojja kulaba erinnya ly'omwana, ekibiina kye ne ssente z'obanjibwa. Yingizaamu omuwendo gw'ogenda osasula. Yingizaamu PIN. Ojja kufuna obubaka nga bukakasa nti osasudde. MTN Momo. Nyangu, yesigika ate tesumbuwa.
Everywhere you go, MTN.
Raising voices.
I feel happy when my mother spends time with me. I hope all mothers will like my mother. I want my mother to reach out to all mothers. She knows how important it is to be a good mother. I promise to help my mother inspire other mothers to change.
In this time of COVID, what is your promise to the children of Uganda? Because a violence-free childhood is everyone's right. Raising voices.
Ooh. Look. The thing goes. Twink, twink, twink. Ooh.
Grab an ice-cold bottle of Pepsi Max today and drink to your bold lifestyle. Enjoy maximum taste with no sugar. Now available at a shop near you. Maximum taste, no sugar.
Raising voices.
As a teacher, I have the opportunity to shape how children grow and learn. I believe in creating a non-violent school where children feel safe and respected. I promise to lead by example and create a different kind of relationship with my learners, one that helps them grow.
In this time of COVID, what is your promise to the children of Uganda? Because a violence-free childhood is everyone's right. Raising voices.
Patriotism is a feeling of love, devotion, and the willingness to sacrifice for one's country.
I say no to corruption because I put my country first. I choose peace over violence because I put my country first.
I love Uganda. I serve Uganda. I sacrifice for Uganda. I'm loyal to Uganda. I love myself.
Be patriotic. Uganda first. This message is brought to you by the National Secretariat for Patriotism Co-Uganda, Office of the President.
When you talk about our motherland Uganda, the Pearl of Africa, you cannot fail to smile because of the smile that fills the faces of the citizens. Our nice good weather and nature that sustains us all, that enables us all to continue each in their own way, because we are all different, even according to each individual's work. But what joins us to become one person is the sweetness from the flavored drink Alleluia Jingati drink and Alleluia Tamarind drink. The flavor that quenches your thirst while at the same time treating and healing your body, because it is 100% natural. Enjoy the drink that has got the tamarind juice in it. Made by Alleluia Reflexology, Healthy Solutions and Nutritional Research Center Limited. Get yourself a bottle of Alleluia from all shops around.
Sasula school fees mu bwangu ddala ng'okozesa MTN Momo. Nyiga star *165 *880# yingizamu student code eyakuweebwa essomero. Ojja kulaba erinnya ly'omwana, ekibiina kye ne ssente z'obanjibwa. Yingizamu omuwendo gw'ogenda osasula. Yingizaamu PIN. Ojja kufuna obubaka nga bukakasa nti osasudde. MTN Momo. Nyangu, yeesigika ate tesumbuwa.
Everywhere you go, MTN.
Raising voices.
I feel happy when my mother spends time with me. I hope all mothers will like my mother. I want my mother to reach out to all mothers. She knows how important it is to be a good mother. I promise to help my mother inspire other mothers to change.
In this time of COVID, what is your promise to the children of Uganda? Because a violence-free childhood is everyone's right. Raising voices.
Buli munya-Uganda nayitinga makuru marungi. UBC West erina makuru marungi kandi agali kwesigwa. Leero za program zaayo ziri omulunya kitara hamwe n'orufumbira. UBC West eine tekinologiya ey'omulembe eri kugibaasisa kuhika omu bicweka byona omu ihanga nangu n'aheeru y'eihanga. Tukwatire aha frequencies ezo. Kisoro 97.7 Fama. Kalari 93.7 Fama. Hoima 99.1 Fama. Kampala 5.7 Fama. Mbarara 97.4 Fama. Footpoto 98.8 Fama. Masindi 5 Fama. Kurikiriza UBC West ohulire embaganiza. UBC West empika huna.
It's no secret that ICT makes learning easy.
The strides made in our field could not be possible without it.
And now we can watch our favorite shows.
My radio is my best friend.
UCC provides an enabling regulatory environment and policy guidance for healthy competition. We also facilitate ease of doing business in the communications sector through licensing, standardization, spectrum management, tariff regulation, rural communication development, and consumer empowerment. An informed consumer is an empowered consumer. UCC supports local content and innovations. Driving the development of a robust communication sector in Uganda is Uganda Communications Commission.
We also have enough air.
It is intellectually engaging.
And you can only become a leader when there are problems. I like that.
The same applies to Rwanda, Burundi. So what are we federating?
Whether rats from another country can be, somebody must be there to hold everybody accountable.
But at the moment, we would rather deal with what we have, make it right.
First of all, we as elites of Uganda, we have made Museveni the issue. I can tell Museveni is not the problem of Uganda. The problems of Uganda are much deeper. We can change the next 20 presidents and we'll still be this roundabout.
Deeply incisive.
The different political forces that we have in the country, we don't seem to really have achieved that minimum political consensus over certain things.
Authentically symbolic and insightful. Behind the Headlines, every Wednesday at 10 p.m. with Charles Odong Thor. All on your public broadcaster, UBC, inspiring Uganda.
money, the first thing is to have a financial plan.
So she was in a miserable state.
What
we contributed to her, her things were coming up.
This is where my journey started, from this building, and I was paying a rent of about 15,000. And basically why I came into this, looking at my capital and what that capital could serve.
Nasoka nemba street kid mu kibuga mu Mbarara nimara mu emyezi 9 ndika sako kati nyina picha 25 class yange nakeka ku million 12
ogwo mutika tibwengendo gutunga bagumpamo emitwalo 12 oba 15.
A rich man can have money but he doesn't know how to use it, and a poor man has a little but he knows to use it because he has got this knowledge.
Live from Now Avenue in UBC Studios, this is Good Morning Uganda. Live from Now Avenue in UBC Studios, this is Good Morning Uganda.
Welcome back from that commercial break. Of course, it is a few minutes past the hour of 8, and at this time we usually look at issues of national concern with our guest in studios. But as we wait for him to join us anytime when he arrives, I and Felix will be discussing a number of issues regarding what is happening in the city, more so if you move downtown, as Kampala Capital City Authority with sister security agencies are embarking on clearing the streets of Kampala. This has affected a number of vendors that were making ends meet on the streets of Kampala. Felix, I don't know if yesterday you moved downtown, but what was happening is streets were flooded with army, police, and all agencies clearing the streets, including kiosks that some said had licenses, had permits, but KCC told them that if you do have them, go find spaces in arcades, in buildings, and we will still use the same. At such a time, reopening of the economy, tough times, but KCCA sticks that they'll ensure there is order in the city.
No, but all that said, I believe it's a very good concept from KCC, and we don't entirely disagree with this whole approach. We also had a statement from the spokesperson of Kasita who came out to say it's a good move in relation to people who transact in the buildings and they do make payment to the government through various avenues. Just to mention but a few, you look at the licenses, of course they pay for garbage and all these things. However, you must also note that the concern is not with the activity of bringing trade order into the city. The concern, excuse me, is with the mannerism of the enforcers, one. Secondly, the untimeliness. But also third, the prima facie appearance of disorganized approach to solving a known problem. Because one then would ask themselves, why wasn't this done when the lockdown was being eased? Why do you have to first collect money from people and then chase them away? Why do you have to let people first settle, yet you had an opportunity?
To tell them that, well, this and
if
this
people were locked in their home, this should have been planned, that if people, as you come back to town, expect A, B, C, D. Plan better. The enforcement, as I said, we all want a clean city. We all want cities where people can walk. But we must also be able to be alive to the fact of When you talk about growth and development in cities, you must not be absent to the realities of being a third world country. There are things that we are able to do and things we are not able to do. And with due respect, by the way, to our dreams and agitations of being a good city. When you look at issues like kiosks, when you say you don't want kiosks on the roads, but these kiosks are licensed, who's the fool in this?
And they have permits.
Who's fooling who?
Well, Cassius says
the licensor or the licensee?
Because they say, much as they claim they have the licenses, but they know where they are carrying on.
No,
it's illegal.
No. Robert, between you and me, until even in our language we say, Chino chidabwana yonka. How you cannot come, Robert, you can't come and tell me you want a license to be a doctor. Do you have a license as a doctor?
You don't, and I don't.
Because there are processes.
Well, one of the things KCCA license is funny about is they look at the business, not location. I think that's something they also have to
It is not funny. If that, I don't know how true it is.
Most of that's why they're telling them now that same license.
Then what are you licensing?
The business.
Which business?
If it's, for example, you have a kiosk, you're going to operate in terms of airtime.
That's why I use that
statement for that.
I use that statement that
where the business is conducted.
Some things bidawana yonka. You can't say you're going to give someone a license to operate in the city center, not knowing where they are going to operate from and what business they are going to do. That is cheating.
Business, not
that is theft. That is theft, honestly, because I'm imagining that the institution of KCCA should be able to give also guidance. Even when someone comes to get a license and they tell you, I want to do this business, this and this, you are able to tell them, no, look here. In as much as you want this license, you cannot operate. Let's imagine someone puts a butchery on Kampala Road. On Queens, it's called
Queensway?
No, just here, City Square. Because you're giving licenses, you just give. As an institution, you're able to advise. You say, no, look here. In as much as you want this, the location. I think one of the issues as you license should be advised in terms of location. Now, imagine someone comes, I want to bring my pork at Nile Avenue. You get it? Or probably there's space here just outside City Hall. You get, like, it's only sanity that an institution like KCCA should have an advisory concept as they award licenses.
Actually, the association that brings together, that is those running kiosks, has gone to court over the same matter, Felix, that you're raising. Because they're saying we have running licenses, we have permits, there is no legality to which you can come.
It is one of those classical old sayings of you can't have your cake and eat it. You can't be the killer and the healer. Now KCCA wants to be the one that gave the poison and also brings the medicine.
Let's look at another element, that is the resettlement plan, Felix, here. Because these vendors are saying it is okay if you want us to leave the streets. You're telling us that there is space in Usafi, according to, that is their chairman, he says there are only 39 stores left. And there are about 4,616 vendors on the street. So he's asking, where would the 300,000 go? That there isn't a proper plan. The deputy mayor, that is KCCA Doreen Nyanjura, said they wrote to central government telling them every financial year, let's set money, at least in every division, to have a model market for these vendors where you can relocate them. This hasn't been done.
You know, there are two things that that have not been excessively discussed when you talk about the straight order. One is the law, and secondly is policy, but also probably which directly will lead into, will talk into that issue of planning, that what is the plan henceforth. Robert, as I've told you, we have had a long time to have people think wise about what they can do. This whole thing of relocating vendors is a two-way thing. I don't know if it is the responsibility of government entirely to relocate vendors.
Who the government never brought.
And if I may speak into that honestly, without fear of contradiction, I am yet to find out. But I don't think it is entirely the duty of government to resettle. Because then one would ask, abali mu arcade, are the arcades for government? You get it? I don't know if you get it. It is not their duty entirely. And I don't think I will take them down on that. If they are able or not. I think one of the solutions for the issue of vendors that no one wants to discuss about yet is the prices, the rent prices in Kampala. People don't want to discuss some of the most critical issues. Because if rent prices, absolutely. But if you discuss the issue of rent prices in the city, you would have answered at least 30% of the vendors' problem in Kampala. The landlord-tenant question that people have feared to discuss by far. This whole thing of saying market, you cannot, let me tell you, sisobola kutambula kuva ku UBC nengenda gula changwe usafi unless I'm a fool. I can't.
But Felix, there is a belief that if that is the only place you can get it,
no, it cannot be the
then
only,
you will
it
go
will never be the
at
only
that
place. That is not a reality because it will never happen.
Because let me give you an example.
Get into a scenario.
When they were coming up with Usafi Park, people had this belief, who would go there? We'll still get border as we walk. Who can cross from uptown, cross through Nachivubo, get to the park? But when you go there now, people have accepted and they're occupying and they're going in this taxi park.
That is unfair for you to say because you know the truth that if you assess the effect of that movement to the traffic that was in those, it is not the same. If there used to be 100 people, probably there are 40. You know that. The numbers, they reduced drastically. There are things that are not possible. Unless I'm in the locality of Usafi, maybe Kona Plaza or around there, Kalitunsi. That's when I can say. But I cannot. Does Usafi have a parking? Does Usafi market have a parking for people who go to buy?
Entered that market, so
the parking I know is just besides, but it's for paying. I think 3,000. You get it? Does that market have a parking for people who customers? So you've already cut off a particular. But as I've told you, I know. If we answer the question of landlord-tenant relationship in Kampala, you will reduce the vendors' issues. The people on the streets who are selling clothes, shoes, they were initially in what? In these arcades.
Actually, the numbers increased when we were due to COVID-19.
Absolutely.
People could no longer manage the rate. And so some of them, that is why actually I was speaking to Hood Hussein on phone. And I asked him, if you're talking about vendors, now hawkers, what do you make of a person who parks a Porsche car, then has merchandise and puts that on the street? Have you examined why this person left the shop and then they choose to come on the streets? Because the vendors you're talking about, colleagues, you will understand that apart from these that come and sell on streets, even have people that pack merchandise, very expensive, along the streets in their vehicles.
You know, vending is vending, whether fashionable or...
So we are moving away from this person of capital of maybe 50,000.
You know,
to a person,
the whole of Kampala and its suburbs now is full of vendors. You go to Najera, go to Chiwature, go to Naria, go to
the 5 divisions of Kampala,
go to Machindye, go to Muyenga. People pack their passion fruits and pack on the side. They pack their eggs and pack on the side. Honey, sugar canes, Rubaga. What I'm saying is that, you see, when you talk about these things, and for me that's why when we earlier had this discussion, I told you, they are attacking these people in the face of trade order because they are weak.
Soft target.
Ani akumanyi Robert. Go waka Kiosks kemi who knows you? Olimwangu, you're easy to. But the problem is bigger. The problem is bigger. I've told you, if you're talking about trade order, let's deal with that tenant landlord issue. Because 70% of buildings in Kampala are empty. Since COVID, do you know that?
Some first floor occupied, second
only first floor. But if we deal with this, maybe these people on the streets will get into the arcades, but no one is discussing that. Trade order is not it's not something that happened yesterday. As I told you, trade order must fit into a bigger plan of a city, and this we want to share together. And that also takes into concept issues of transportation, mobility, issues of drainage. You're talking about a bigger plan. You cannot say we want to deal with just this problem, because okay, let's imagine vendors have gone. How about the congestion, road congestion?
You believe when the vendors go, the streets will be
you have
the
a
people
city
in shops will be making better money.
Okay, as I've told you, remember, Robert, let's be honest. We're talking about trade order in the Kampala, the metropolitan.
Yes, CDB.
You cannot say the only antagonist to that is vendors. Because vendors answers the issue. When I listen to my friend, by the way, the physical planner, Mr. Agava, when he was saying people to move freely on the streets, okay, that is answered. How about the drainage issue? You get it? So that's why it feels like a witch hunt, because it is only about one aspect of the entire city. Are we looking at the physical planning methods? Again, because others have not been dealt with systematically, this particular one is looking like we are witch hunting a particular group of people.
Felix.
When you just about that, let's talk about transport, Robert. Have you seen, look at taxis. Every road is like a stage. Doesn't that inconvenience you? Do you know how many accidents are caused by that? Cars stop anywhere. Look, go to Kampala Road. You can hardly drive. This taxi is coming, this one. Who's talking about that? So let's have a wholesome approach to this whole trade order thing.
Actually, what is happening after the traders, in often other borders, because I was speaking to the Minister of Kampala, Hajat Amisi Kabanda, and she told me, Robert, we are going in a meeting, and we are going to discuss now how best we can move next to borders, then taxis. We must have order in the city, and the strength, the enforcement you're seeing on the hawkers and the vendors next is coming to apply the same force to border cyclists and the taxis.
Let's talk. You're talking about order in the city. Let's answer the question of criminality. You see, the problems, and this is the for me,
but Felix, we cannot handle all at once. We must have a starting point.
Why not?
We must have a starting point.
Why not?
Those are the kiosks being taken. Yes. Then next, if you remove the vendors,
those are branded kiosks.
Yes.
The owners are known. I believe they were allocated that space. I don't want to believe that man went and welded that car thing and said wanu nenyigewa. I don't think that's possible, Robert. I don't think so. And that is where the unfairness comes in. Don't just tell people we are not allowing kiosks. As you come in, no one, and let that be general. But let me tell you something that's going to be very unfortunate and very sudden. And I can even say this to whoever or minister or who is watching. You're going to see kiosks, some kiosks of particular people that have remained on the streets of Kampala.
Godfathers.
Between you and me, you know.
Selective enforcement.
And that's the problem. That's what I'm saying. That's where we normally lose it. We all want an orderly city where state of the art, everyone, you know, but because of politics, because of those so-called, what you call godfathers, impunity. Wait, did they start yesterday? Probably it will take them, I don't know. You will see some. You will walk on the streets of Kampala and some kiosks will
remain.
What is that now? That's why I told you, it is easier to enforce against vulnerable wananchi. Because what do they have for Ugandans? But because we're talking about trade order, people will build in roads and no one will say.
Actually, a number of buildings are in roads, others
as you want to chase
hydrants.
borders out of town. Remember, people are building in the city and not accommodating. A building that has over 2,000 occupants has no parking. Maybe 1,000 of them have cars. Where? Is that physical planning for a city you want to put in order? Let's be honest. How many arcades in this town have parking for their?
Very few. Most of them, the parking.
But how do they get?
Turned into
how do they get
stores?
How do they get licenses to be put up? Even me, who's not a physical planner, probably not an architect for that matter, I know that every building that is commercial must have
parking.
You get it? What is the meterage that we leave between the main access road and the? But you have a building where your arm can go into a shop in the arcade when you're driving. You're on the road, but your arm can buy. Literally, where the road stops, the arcade starts. And it is in Kampala. When you want to discuss trade order, have the nerve as an institution of KCCA to discuss all the challenges. We don't support people being on the road. We are entirely against it if they are there illegally. But there is a question of law. And this should be addressed by council. I don't know if Lord Mayor, as senior colleague council, knows that there's a question of law. We also await to see the ordinance that was passed by, under which
they're working actually on the street vendors and hawkers ordinance that will be passed.
Was passed when? Was it passed?
Not yet passed. Not yet passed.
They are working under what?
And Felix, finally, I think we should end with this. Let's look at the political clashes between the technical and the political wing. We saw the Lord Mayor on that saying we do not have a law. We saw that is the Deputy Lord Mayor Doreen Nyanjura saying the same. We have the RCC, Hood Hussein, who insists. We have the State Minister, the full Minister for Kampala, saying this is the way to go.
Well, as you see, what is happening, and I want to be factually on record, is needed, is something that we need.
Should have been done yesterday.
Matter of fact, we need to have an orderly city. We need it. We just don't want it, but we need it. However, the bigger need to this is that we do everything the right way. And keeping in mind the fact that we are all Ugandans, secondly, in mind that we have all been affected by times, but also third, that we cannot be defined by ego, whether technical or political. If there's need of an ordinance, let the council come up with it and let it pass it. You get it? If there is need, I'm using the word need technically to avoid the word want. It's not about what RCC wants, what minister wants, or what government wants. What do we need? I think ultimately we need to work together as a country, keeping in mind that all of us have been affected as children of this land, and let's not add more pain to what is already there. That's why earlier when I was talking about the story of fuel, these things work together. Let's not add more pain as schools have reopened. Between you and me, you know what we are going through, people who pay tuition, school fees. Let's not add pain to the people who have been broken by COVID. Families have lost loved ones. Families have lost breadwinners. Let's not add pain. Let's use our offices. Let's use both government, technical, both political. Let's use our offices to mend the pieces of what we have lost, mostly in times of COVID. It's our duty, our obligation as leaders to forge a way forward for our country than to break this country.
Well said, Felix. You've touched all aspects of what needs to be done. My only appeal is to our fellow Ugandans there. Before you start any business, first consult, is this legal? First consult. Many times people have invested a lot. At the end of the day, they are only told that this was illegal. Everybody knows selling, vending, hawkering is not allowed. But we also know that an audience is underway that will guide on how best these people can carry out their work within the city center. Have a lovely day. Up next is Ruben to take you through the world of sports. Good morning.
You know, you could just buy a new smartphone from anywhere in Uganda. Dial *175 *94 hash to activate their 100% double data bonus offer on weekly or monthly bundles for 3 months. Better yet, you automatically receive free 1 GB valid for 30 days. You are hooked already, aren't you? Enjoy 100% double data bonus from Airtel. Buy a smartphone from anywhere in Uganda and insert an Airtel SIM card. Dial *175 *94 hash to activate a 100% data bonus offer on weekly or monthly bundles, valid for 3 months. Dial *175 hash and select your preferred bundle to activate a 100% data bonus offer on weekly or monthly bundles, valid for 3 months. Airtel, the smartphone network.
Mohamed Salah, Naby Keita, Kalidou Koulibaly, Sadio Mane, Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang. When you hear these names, you may think you're probably watching the English Premier League or UEFA Champions League, but it's none of those. It's the 2021 Total Energies Africa Cup of Nations from 9th January to February 6th, 2022. All these global elite football stars will be in Cameroon to grace the continent's most prestigious sporting event. 52 games, 24 countries, 1 continent, 1 trophy, 1 station, live, free and exclusive to your public broadcaster. UBC, inspiring Uganda.
This is Good Morning